Hey, what's going on? My name is Coach Lee Hopkins. My pronouns are he, him, his, and you're listening to the Patterns of Possibility podcast. This is a podcast dedicated to helping you replace harmful patterns with new possibilities. In each episode, we'll explore topics that inspire you to be yourself, live your truth, and make lasting connections. In this episode, we're going to talk about shame of fools. Oh man, I make myself laugh, and as everyone should. But hey, we're gonna talk about shame and why we fall into it, and how if you had some tools to deal with it, it wouldn't be so scary. It wouldn't hurt you so much. You wouldn't be so afraid of it. And yeah, by the end of this episode, you're gonna be empowered and you're gonna learn how to deal with shame, because it's garbage and you don't need it in your life. That's my personal and professional opinion. Are you ready? Let's go. Shame is our favorite tool to use as humans to get people to do things the way we want them to do things. Like whole religions really focus on shaming you into doing the things that you want to do. Our parents do it to us. Society does it to us. And I think that it ruins our experience of finding joy and peace and happiness within ourselves. And so what is shame anyway? Well, shame is the idea that, and this is my own personal definition, it's what I use. It is the idea that you are focused on what someone else or many other people might think of you if you do not behave a certain way. It's the focus on making sure that people outside of you, that's everyone, people who are not you, think about you or believe that you are a, quote, good person. You are acceptable based on how you think they want you to behave, right? You want to make sure that you focus on not shaming your family or embarrassing anyone. You want to make sure that you do the things the way they want you to do them, so that you do not shame them. So they do not have shame. So you do not have shame. We're just throwing it around. What will the neighbors think if you married that girl down the street? What would the neighbors think if you married a different colored person or a different gender? What would the neighbors think if you had gone to art school instead of becoming a psychologist or a doctor? What would the neighbors think if we don't keep up with them? We don't buy the things that they're buying. So it's all about focusing on something outside of ourselves. It's always about that. And shame is very powerful because it gets implanted in us. And there's even a way to talk about it. It's a device that if you would just, and the way I think about this, being analytical and everything, it's a device that it's been implanted, and you can notice when it's activated, and you can just turn it off and then get rid of it, then take it out. Have you no shame? No, I don't. I don't have any shame. I do what I want because it feels good to me. You do what you want because you want to please other people. That's not me. It's never worked for me before, and I feel awful when I do it. So we want to remove that. Get rid of that nasty device that is shame. Now, how do we do that? Because it's all over the place, and it really makes you really stand out. It makes you stand out in a not so pleasant way because everybody else is doing it, right? That's even part of the shame, looking at the hive mind or watching how you need to fit in. We are social creatures, and we don't want to do anything that makes us stand out, because then we'll be ostracized, and that real feeling of being ostracized keeps us from doing the thing that we really want to do, because we don't want people looking at us in a way that makes us look like an other, or perhaps even more deeply frightening, the enemy. right? If you're not with me, you're against me, that kind of thing. So shame on you is what we use to keep people in line. We're used to keep people. So how do you get rid of this shame thing? How do you disperse it? How do you relieve yourself of it? Relieve yourself of being in shame or focus on what other people think? Well, you have to adopt this mindset. This is what I did. I adopt this new mindset that says, well, I don't focus on what other people feel. I focus on what I feel. So turning the scope inward, turning it inside, and believing that what you think, feel, and do is most important to you, and it will impact you more than anything, because it's your feelings that matter. If you go along to get along and it doesn't feel good to you, then you have to live with that feeling of it not feeling good to you. If you go along to get along and you go to dentistry school as your parents wanted you to go to, and you absolutely hate that career and you wish that could have done something else, then that's you who has made that choice, and you who are living with that feeling. It was the fear of doing the thing that feels good to you and right to you, and trying and failing, or trying and succeeding, that you have to live with. And so coming on to this mindset of my feelings are the most important to me. My feelings are everything, and they're the most important thing that matters in my life. It's how I feel about my experience. And if you're doing things out of fear instead of joy, because shame will get you to do things out of fear. Remember, what if they don't like me? What if they ostracize me? What if I am the enemy? If you're doing things out of fear, you are missing out on joy. You're missing out on fun. You're missing out on excitement. You're missing out on things that fulfill you and lift you up and make this life really worth living. And so when I really started to get that concept, I look around and I see how many things I'm doing just because other people are doing it, just because other people suggested it, and I really didn't want to do it, but I also didn't want to be left out. As soon as I started to realize that, I started to tap into those feelings and say, I don't want these feelings. I want something else. I didn't know exactly what else, but I knew that I didn't want the shame. I didn't want the pressure. I didn't want the disapproval and the disappointment that comes with it. I didn't want to feel like I was controlled. And so I started to do anything else, just literally anything else. Go experiment, because if you've been under the thumb of shame for many years, you probably don't know what you like. You probably don't know what you want to do. You probably don't know what's exciting to you, because you've just been waiting for someone to tell you. Now you get to go discover that. This is bravery here to be able to do that, to dump this entire system of shame, especially if you have to cut people off because they want you to do things a certain way. They want you to worship their religion. They want you to wear their clothes. They want you to talk the way they talk. They want you to follow the path they set out for you. They want you to behave the way they want you to behave. And you might have a desire for them to be in your life. And if you release that shame, then they also get released, because all they want to do is tell you that you need to be different. And that's not what you want to do. You want to do what feels good to you. So you got to go out there and discover that. I'm over here talking about it like it's an easy task to just release shame. But no, it took years. It took years of pushing and pulling and hemming and hawing and trying just a little bit and being scared because I didn't know what was next. I didn't know what to do next. I didn't know what I really wanted. It takes time. Be patient with yourself with this. But I want to tell you that it'd be the best thing that you've ever done. That's what, for me, it was the best thing I've ever done. And I've watched people fall away. And I've pushed people away because they just wanted to impose something upon me. No. Be brave. Go out there and find your joy. Do things that feel good to you. Discover what feels good to you. And continue doing more of that. I promise you, at the end of the day, everybody wins. You get to be an inspiration to those people who are stuck in shame as a bonus. But most of all, you're going to feel good about your life. And that is the most important thing. The number one reason people come to seek my help is not because they're struggling with relationships. It's something much deeper. They're really struggling to trust. They honestly believe that there's no one around that they can trust. And with good reason. They've been burned so many times. They've opened up to the wrong person. You see, close relationships require that you put your trust in someone, and trust requires vulnerability. And vulnerability is scary because, of course, you could get hurt. I get it. And I found that there's an art and a science to discovering who to trust. So to help you be vulnerable with less risk, I've developed a 3-step action plan to discover who deserves your trust. It's called strategic vulnerability. Strategic vulnerability has personally kept dozens of untrustworthy people at a safe distance from me, and I'm sure it will work for you too. If you'd like to learn more about how to apply this 3-step action plan to your life, let's have a friendly conversation. Go to patternsofpossibility.com to book your conversation today. Now it's time for your listener letters. If you'd like me to give you actionable steps to create more meaningful relationships with something that's happening with you in your life, you can write me at patternsofpossibility@gmail.com, and I might read it here on the show. I'm so conflicted on how to end a friendship with a lifelong friend. I'm a 27-year-old female, and so is she. I'm worried about seeming cold or rude, but also I want to have self-respect. I'm feeling so conflicted. My friend that I've been friends with for almost all my life is coming into town, and I agreed to let her stay with me for some of the time. Well, she moved away a couple years ago, and since we've been apart, I've realized many things. As hard as it is to commit, as hard as it is to admit, I don't miss seeing her. And although I do cherish many memories and the fact that we've just known each other for so long, I've realized that, honestly, this hasn't been a healthy or reciprocal friendship. Thinking about her coming back gives me so much anxiety, and I just don't want to hang out with her. I think I said yes originally out of guilt, and I'm realizing how much I do that, and I need to stop people-pleasing and take responsibility for the relationships I'm in. This is all good stuff. Looking back, I realize how much I've always known about her life and how little she truly knows about me. Last time she was in town, she talked about other people all the time. Ultimately, we just have such different values now. I don't engage in gossip anymore, and I like to be mindful of my eating and spending. She's a spender and eats a lot of junk food. And I don't say that to sound judgmental, only to demonstrate that we've completely drifted. When I had to postpone my wedding because my husband's family couldn't get their visas in time, not once did she ask or listen to or about my feelings. She told me how sad she was that we did that and she didn't understand, and how she felt hurt by it. I wish I would have just said that I'm not available that weekend. I feel confused because we've truly had some great times, and I do love and care about her, although she's been through some serious stuff, and I really don't want to hurt her. I'm finally choosing me now. My confusion is it completely rude to send her a text message sharing some of this? More kind and assertive way, of course. Or is it better to make an excuse and say, I can no longer host a hangout when she's here and let things fade? I'm genuinely new to navigating these things, so I appreciate help. Okay. All right. So I love this transformation or this realization that you've come into, where you're looking at your relationship and you're pointing out specific behaviors. Like, these are all the things that I would tell my clients or tell anybody to look out for. Essentially, they don't know you. So she knows little about you, but you know a whole lot. You can see some of those past times that you've had together where you were gossiping about things. Now you don't do that as much. Now you're eating healthier, and she eats a bunch of junk food, so you're going to have a little bit of a conflict with your habits. There's some things that you were pointing out that are just spot on. And what I like most about this is your desire to be accountable for people pleasing and take responsibility for the relationships that you're in. Now, with that said, you said that you wanted to take responsibility, and I think the universe is hearing you quite clearly. It's like, all right, you want to take responsibility for this? I'm going to show you. I'm going to put you in a position in which you have to take responsibility, or you can choose to take responsibility. So the piece here is whether or not you text them directly and say, hey, I don't want you here. Get out of my face. Of course, in a politer way. But then also you could just kind of not take responsibility for the decision and your real feelings and hide your feelings again and say, look, I'm not busy. I'm busy this weekend and I can't host you, and let things fade and let her be angry without ever speaking to her or having her know what is really going on. You know, she'll just be mad on the other side, or maybe she'll try to double down and guilt you even more. Like, what do you mean? I expected us to be able to do this. And if you're not able to stand up in your people pleasing, away from your people pleasing, and stand up in your sense of self, then you're going to fold. She's going to constantly come at you. So I look at this as an opportunity for you to say how you really feel. Like, say how you really feel about your relationship and your situation, and say, look, I know I said that I wanted you to come over, or I invited you over, or you could stay here, but here are some things that I've noticed. And you tell her and let her respond. Because the reason why we don't tell people how we really feel is, one reason is that we don't know. We don't know how we really feel. We're kind of confused by the situation. We don't know how to move and what to do. But also, we're afraid of the outcome or the response, that a reaction that you'll get from the other person, because we don't know how to handle it. What if she raises her voice? What if she gets mad at you? What if she threatens to end the relationship? What if she cusses you out? Like, threatens to end the relationship. I mean, that's what you want to do anyway, isn't it? So the test here is to really be able to share your feelings and watch how they're going to respond and see how they're responding. Like, handle that response, because this is what you're going to have to do for the rest of your life. This is what you're going to have to do for the rest of your life. If you're fighting those people pleasing and you decide in one moment that you want to give where it hurts, and you decide, okay, I realized I'm going to try to give where it hurts and it's at my detriment, your brain will kick in, or your habit, if you change this behavior, to be like, hey, remember when you said that you wanted to stop people pleasing and take responsibility? Do the other thing. And you would think, oh no, I can't do the other thing because they're going to react. You're going to fight that all the time. That very same dynamic, you're going to be fighting with that all the time. They're going to respond. They're going to react in a way, and I don't know how to handle their reaction. What if I upset them? And you just got to stop thinking about how they're going to feel. You really have to stop thinking about how they are going to be, because if you give to people at your detriment, if you invite them into your space and thinking that you are a good friend, or that you're supportive and you want to be joyful and spread love and all that, you want to do that, you can't. You won't be able to, because you're full of resentment and frustration, because you didn't want to do this in the first place. And that's going to stick with you. And you're going to really wish that you have said something. You're going to really be upset and frustrated. You're going to kick yourself, because this is an opportunity for you to set a boundary, and you violated your own boundary. So what I recommend, of course, is having a conversation with her, sending a text message, if that's what you like to do. A phone call, I think, is more personal, because you've known each other for several years. You're both 27 years old. So you said you've known her most of your life. So I'm going to guess maybe 15, 20 years. If you've known her most of your life, I'm going to guess that. So you want to be able to talk to her. This is like another level of it. You're not hiding behind the emotionless screen. You are actually hearing her voice and listening to how she responds to you. And that's like another level of it. So either way, don't do the people pleasing. I recommend that you don't do the people pleasing. I recommend that you have a conversation with her by phone. If you can't bring yourself to have a conversation with her by phone, text her. If you can't bring yourself to text her, then okay, looks like you're going to lie to her, and you're going to have another experience where the universe is going to bring it to you again and say, hey, you said you wanted to stop people pleasing, and here's somebody who wants something from you. You got to tell them no without falling apart. The universe will bring you something like that. So you'll get to try again. But this is a really great opportunity. If you turn it into an opportunity, you can do it. Hey, thank you so much for listening. If you like this podcast, share with someone who you think could benefit from this information, and follow me on social media. You can find me at Patterns of Possibility on all social media, and I go live on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Saturdays at 9 a.m. Central Standard Time. You can catch me and learn more about these social connections and interact with other people who are looking for the meaningful connections, who share the same kind of stories, and be in community. And don't forget to sign up for my newsletter at patternsofpossibility.com, where you will get actionable steps delivered to your mailbox every week. Thanks again for listening. Until next time, take care.